It's working today. You slept a little last night.
Let's hope. No, I was the recorder last time, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I have
Should
to,
be in your inbox.
Adam, I have to leave at
Thank you.
2:30 this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
About 10:10.
In everyone's inbox?
No, just yours.
The recorders, so we don't have, because it's one document for all the recommendations.
Okay.
So just to have just a few people on there.
Maybe. You can share your screen. That seemed to work well. You've done that before.
So these candidates just have so much going on, like master's programs, teacher prep program, family, working.
Mm-hmm.
Student loans.
Time is precious.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's spent on something valuable and meaningful. So many folks are like, I did it. I'm not thinking about it again.
I can't remember what the whole waiver thing, but if someone didn't take their TPA and they've been teaching, I think it was because of COVID or something. It's only applied to those in the COVID window. If they hadn't taken their TPA, then they don't need to now if they've got 3 years of
Okay.
the
Yeah,
school saying
okay.
that the evaluations through the admin
they're
of the school,
exempt.
yeah,
Exempt from it.
they're exempted from it. But that I was thinking about interns as well. I mean, if you're an intern and you've been doing it, not necessarily an intern, but if you're in a school working and you're getting favorable evaluations from a named person for 1 or 2 years, then why do you need to do?
Well, what I've seen too, the evaluators aren't always like that, like special ed, right? So I think we can guess that a high proportion of people in internships are in the special ed realm.
Right.
Principals really don't have a special ed background.
No.
So to keep you.
But someone in the district would do.
But it's usually the principal they put it on. So it goes back to the systems. I think I was talking to someone this morning about systems, like how the systems work. And so you could have a teacher who may not demonstrate the things that the TPA asks them to do, but they pass because the principal likes them. They're going to keep them
fails
there.
because the principal doesn't like them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's open to abuse that way.
So it would be ideal that you would have someone evaluate them that has the same background, but that's not always the case. So that's where it's like in the real world, like kind of like what they're talking about.
But there could be criteria like that.
Mhm.
If you have someone in your school district that is going to evaluate people, particularly in shortage areas like special needs, then if you've got someone who is qualified by the state to do, as that person, then why would they need to take an TPA if they've been there? I mean, the school is desperate to keep them.
Yeah.
In that sense, but you're right. Even that is still open to.
Yes, like I said, it's like
the opposite.
Best recommendations in the world, very clear and concise, but yet people will interpret it in the way they interpret them, because it fits their need that they're looking for.
Yeah. So are we ready to start? Or are we the only three?
Shayna, I know we have Shayna and Elisa.
Hey Shayna, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good
You
to
look
see
cold. You're all bundled up.
you.
I know I haven't been feeling well. That's why I'm here and not there. So just trying to stay warm.
Okay.
Helpful.
Yep. I think we did a pretty good job last time. I'm not quite sure what
I think we're just streamlining language, and I think
Right.
we were gonna come back to it too, because I know we said, wait, I don't, wait, do I have my notes? Let's look. I remember talking about it too. I remember talking about.
Where do we have access to this deck?
I think every recorder does.
Yeah, he's limiting
Oh,
recorders.
okay.
Sharing.
Only the VIPs can have access. I got
Yeah,
it.
you didn't pass the test, Shane.
I know. It's okay.
One who was voluntold as he stepped out.
That's why you don't step out.
So what are you doing now, Adam?
I'm not Adam.
I mean, Jason.
I am being OCD. Some of the font was 19 and the other one
Select all.
wasn't.
I thought that's what you were doing. I just wanted you to acknowledge it.
But you don't need to wait for me, facilitator.
Do you want to facilitate that?
I was gonna say timekeeper.
Okay. Do we just want to read through it and see where we are with that? Now that they've all got the same font.
Yeah,
It'd be much
wait, do
easier
they,
for
wait,
them.
hold on, do they all have the same font?
They don't. I could not fit this one in
Okay.
19.
And I don't want it any smaller, otherwise I won't be able to read it.
Let's make it bigger. Page one, what is page one? That's page 8, or slideshow?
This is it. What do you mean?
Well, it says he's on page 8 right there.
Yeah, because there's the other.
Oh, okay, this is our first, okay, this is
Yeah,
our
this
first.
is our
thing, I
first.
see,
This
okay.
is our first recommendation.
I see, okay. There we go. Recommendation 1.
Okay.
Is that a little better?
Perfect.
And culture responsive practices. Now, did you want to, I'm gonna stand up real quick. Did you want to change or add this? You know how the title has equity and culture responsive practices? Did you want to put / sustaining in the title as well, since we have it here? Or does it matter? What does the work group think?
Colin, Shayna, Alicia.
Well, what was the
No,
question?
the titles are in the recommendations.
No, I don't think they
Oh,
are.
okay. Okay, I was just curious, just to streamline language. I was just recommending in the title that we just put / sustaining in order to keep the consistency with the recommendations. For the TPA's tree response, sustaining and equity focused pedagogy.
I'm wondering now, as we look at equity and accountability, does the title need to have something, does the title need to be equity and accountability, like practices around equity and accountability?
Yeah.
Is that going to remain that piece at the very, very top?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's not, then perhaps because you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we're just saying it like the same thing again and again and again and again. So I want to make sure we don't, what's going to get lost, I wonder. Let's see.
I mean, I put the titles there for our cluster themes. I don't, any of the other recommendations don't have that. I think the recommendation just starts off with the paragraph.
Right.
I like that we put that though. I think that
Okay.
clarifies.
Mhm.
That clarifies the difference. This is recommendation 1, which
Right,
is
okay.
addressing that. And then
Okay.
recommendation 2 addresses something slightly different.
Okay. Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, so it's heading 1, and then you have your subheadings.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Okay.
Responsive and
Do we wanna
accountability.
change so how do we want to change the heading?
No. I'm just checking. This is me just checking. Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. So yeah, that subheading, the one that you're at now,
Mhm.
it probably should have responsive and sustaining, right, practices. There you go. And then
Yeah.
it fits with the thing below. So do we just go through each bullet point then? And all of these bullet points, am I right that the steps towards that achieving that.
Yeah.
Well, the word that is going to be missing if we go straight to bullet points is that word requiring, which we wanted in there. Right? So that's what I'm kind of making sure that we don't lose. So because when we say that we recommend this, the only place that we have the word requiring is right there. So in the revision process, when people are starting to fuss with this, if they start to take out that piece and just we get left with the bullet points, is the word requiring anywhere in the bullet points? And do we need it there? You know how it works when you start zhuzhing. So, because that was important to us.
It was.
Are you saying include? Because it says require, which then would apply to the 4 bullet points. Require candidates to incorporate, require to design, require to demonstrate, disaggregate.
It might get missed. What I'm hearing is it might get missed or
Right.
lost.
I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost in the process because it was quite important to us, but does it show up in that way as we look at it a second time, the way that we have it positioned?
Should we like, bold and
Bold.
highlight
Think-
or underline?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Bold,
Underline.
underline, capital. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I like that though. I mean, that sends the message, doesn't it? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it looks a little wild, but at the same time, there it is, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know a big going back to bullet 1, and it's
I
just
mean, I
an
can
idea.
put requiring candidates to take it off here and just put it in each bullet. Is that too much?
I think, no, if we're going to
Okay.
put it at the beginning of everything, I think it's
Then
better.
then we don't need to have it red and bold and I mean we could just have a regular requiring if we're going to put it at the beginning of each bullet. We
You
could
want
just use
Yeah, that works.
if we did it that way, we could just use regular because it wouldn't be lost that way. But
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna ask about in bullet 1, cultures of their students and their learning context, and whether or not we wanted to add families or community. I know a big thing in culture responsive learning is just not only the students and the assets they bring, but
But the,
from their
but
where
the
they're from.
communities, because I added community
Oh, at
to,
the
I
bottom.
remember I added community to one of them. So it should probably be in that one as well.
Bullet point 1, identities and cultures of their students and their learning context.
Sorry.
Right there, yeah.
What did you want me to add?
Communities or families, probably communities, just in that.
After where it says students, I think.
After
The background, identities and
okay.
cultures of their students and communities in their learning context.
families or communities.
Communities,
Yeah, communities.
because unfortunately, not all students have families and traditional.
Sense of it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was a good point to make.
Guidance to design and deliver equitable learning opportunities that address systemic institutional barriers facing diverse populations. Students with exceptional, can we just leave it at exceptional abilities?
In a second bullet.
Mhm.
And my worry for that, and I know what you mean, but
Yeah.
my worry for that is, do other people know what you mean? Like
Yes,
in general, when you talk about exceptional,
Be exceptional.
I taught you exceptional.
yeah,
That's
Okay.
still back in a stone. Able.
differently,
Differently able, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, able.
But you know what I mean? I mean, people in the street think exceptional are those that are doing really well in, high flying and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
That's it. So
I get it. And I would think again, like your audience would be teachers, but you're right, not all teachers would have that learning.
And my teachers oftentimes wouldn't even know the different.
Exceptional needs.
Well, yeah.
I have a question about that second bullet. Am I reading that as that the pedagogical choices that the candidate is making are providing access to these different groups of students, or are we talking about the curriculum or the plan, the actual sort of content of the lesson is addressing inequities in society?
Well, I think access is a buzzword that definitely probably should be in there, because I know we use that a lot in our exceptional needs arena, is providing access and accessibility, and that's mostly through design options, whether it's accessible documents for screen readers or accessibility for speech to text or text to speech type things.
so would it be requiring candidates to design and deliver equitable and accessible learning opportunities?
Something like that, and I just think there's a lot of ands in there. Design, deliver.
So this is focused on sort of like access and inclusive. So this is okay. So it's sort of like a UDL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you need to deliver in a way that all students can access the lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Deliver equitable learning opportunities.
Yeah, I think in this one, I was also thinking like a use of assistive technologies that some of our students have. And this is our adults learners too, that use different kind of accessibility devices.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, design, deliver, equitable learning. So you're saying maybe accessible somewhere in there?
Yeah, and it doesn't, then that would hopefully then cover things.
Or inclusive. I mean, I don't know if inclusion or inclusive. Learning experiences that are inclusive of diverse student populations, including multilingual learners, et cetera.
We can do that too. I don't know. I've had some bias towards the term inclusive lately, just because I feel like it's used a lot, but it's not really like meaningful. People just throw it in there to say, "Oh yeah, we're inclusive," but not really understanding what is inclusion.
Just because they're in your classroom, that's
Yes, or because they play in the same playground as other students, they're being inclusive, and I no, it's. So I totally, yes, we can use inclusion, but I know that I have my bias. I'm just sharing that.
I like that. I like what you've just done, Jason. Address systemic
To ensure accessibility,
to ensure accessibility for diverse student populations, including multilingual and students with exceptional.
You want to do accessibility and inclusion?
I don't particularly, but I understand what Shane is saying.
Yeah, Shane.
Oh, I'm
Feels
not,
like
I'm
that
not hung up on the word. I'm not hung up.
Okay.
I more was trying to sort of use it for my own understanding, because when I think about inclusion, I think of universal design for learning, and I think about, multiple modalities and thinking about students and, so I have that frame in my head, but I'm not hung up on the word in this particular, like using it here. It doesn't make the most sense in communicating broadly.
Okay, great.
If candidates did that second bullet point, would it be inclusive?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
I think so.
That's the outcome.
I think that's the.
bullet point 3.
I know I wasn't here for the creation of this, so I just wanted to share how much I really appreciate all that's been said here because I think this is really important. So good job to all of you who did this when I wasn't here. And
This was inspired by your recommendations and comments.
It
Oh.
was. You're always inspiring, Shayna.
No, this one's really great, and it really does address something that is not as prominently featured currently in TV. So this is nice. I do wonder, one question I do have is about sort of it's more of a political question around the terms culturally responsive and sustaining pedagogy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? I want to talk about that too. It rubs me the wrong way. So yeah, can we Shayna, I'm glad you're here. Yay, let's talk about it. So okay. So I don't know if we're gonna get too in the weeds with this, and it's not where ed K through 12 is at, but it's culturally sustaining, culturally relevant, all of those things. It's well, first of all, actually, Shannon, go. So go ahead. I feel like I just interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think this is what I was asking for. I mean, I want to have the conversation because I know that in our current context, there are these terms are being interpreted in a variety of ways that are not necessarily accurate.
Right.
And aligned with what the intention was of the actual meaning. And I know we use these terms, personally, I use them in my program, and I'm just thinking broadly across the state of California, whether or not this is, and if we want to use them, it is an intentional choice, but we just know that it is an intentional choice, and there are some different political sort of ramifications to that. So that's all.
Dana,
Yeah.
this is Patricia. I was just thinking real quick. I know, I'm sorry, Alyssa. Do you think a definition of terms should be added to this to kind of clarify what we mean by culture responsive sustaining or relevant pedagogy? Or should we just look at changing the language? Or what do you guys think?
Well, I think that the one thing that I do want to have on the record, or at least on the recording or the transcript, is just how aware and how I guess how aware and how aware are your institutions, and how much do you address in your kind of spheres of influence the conversation that we're having right now, in terms of the issue we're talking about.
One of the things that I try to keep in mind is what are the intentional and unintentional consequences? And so, I mean, there are very sometimes there are mandates that come through that on the surface look really good. And then what happens unintentionally is maybe not so positive because the people implementing them don't actually understand how to do that work well. And so anyway, I just want us to think about what are the intentional, unintentional consequences. It doesn't mean to change the language. I'm not suggesting that, but I think having this conversation is important so we can feel really clear about what the possibilities are if this gets taken up as a recommendation that moves forward.
Yeah. I think one of the things that the conversation that I have with the students and in my work at the university is we talk a lot about racial literacy, for the for example, so we talk about these terms culturally sustaining, culturally relevant, et cetera, and how that is often used as a way to bypass discussions about race and actually equity and all the things that they're meant to actually face and address, right? And so in the ways that how they're operationalized actually in the field, right? And sort of just the so if you're actually in a space where, there's like kind of a low level of like literacy around like these terms, or a low level of comfort with having discussions and like, what this can actually look like, kind of like what you're talking about with the term inclusion. It's like what it ends up looking like is like, let's make tortillas, right? And like, let's talk about like just this really surface level, like celebrate diversity in a way that's like, just not at all what's intended, right? Or let's do Black History Month, and like let's study Harriet Tubman once a year, every year for 12 years in a row, so that's all, you know what I mean? Like it ends up looking like something absolutely not what it's supposed to look like. So so it can very easily become like a way of like kind of bypassing the kind of work that we want to have. I don't know. There's like study after study after study of like showing like what it actually shows up and what it can look like, in like with, in the, and what it has been looking like, and so I'm not really sure how to massage the language to make that less, I'm not sure what to do with the language, in this space. What do you think?
I appreciate that as well, the interpretation and how it's operationalized and how it plays out. It's important to think about, and sometimes I try to weigh, is it going to do, ultimately we have to wrestle with these terms. Is it going to be more good than harm in the long run as folks try to make sense of it? I would feel more concerned if we didn't have the 4 bullet points. Because I might say, oh man, culture responsive, da, da. And then when I read the 4 bullet points and I start seeing, oh, this is what they mean, right? Background, identities, cultures, language, exceptional abilities, community assets, student strengths and experiences. I feel, how we disaggregate the data, it gives more detail as to like what we mean by focusing on equity and cultural responsiveness. So if we didn't have the 4 bullet points, I would be more concerned. I don't know if we can escape folks misinterpreting an action, but I think the discussions need to be had at our different institutions from K-12 and up.
I have an idea, and just hearing you guys talk, critical thinking. That's basically what we're asking our candidates to do, is critically think about these topics. So how about adding something like the work group recommends TPA center and culture responsive sustaining equity pedagogy with critical reflection, or some kind of putting something in that top one to kind of, this is going to be your lens to not only center, but to really critically think about what you're doing and is it going to be meaningful for the students? So again, I don't know what the language is, but throwing something in there. Reflection, I don't know. I just something around critical thinking.
So if we think about the scope of the TPA or the tasks that candidates are asked to do, they're typically asked to create a learning segment. They're asked to think about the context of their classroom first, create the learning segment, engage in the actual teaching, collect assessment evidence, evaluate it, and then reflect on that to determine next steps. So if I think about sort of like the container and what we're actually hoping to see show up in that container, I think is what I'm kind of thinking about. And I think the bullets do show what I hope to see in that container. I think the critical thinking piece might come in the reflection, but I'm not sure that is reflective of like what I might see in the pedagogical practices in the video, for example. So I'm trying to think about like the scope of what we're asking candidates to do in the assessment and what I'm hoping to be able to gain evidence of in that container.
Right.
I mean, I hope they're doing all of it across their program, but
Alicia,
Mhm.
Yeah.
do you feel like we need to change the language, or is
Well,
it something
well,
that
I
you
think, yeah, so it's not necessarily, okay, so I just want to have a discussion about it a little bit. So
Mhm.
I feel like we're leaning really heavily on culturally responsive and sustaining, and I want to make sure that we're not using it as a proxy for anything else. So are we using it for a proxy for race? That's
No,
my question.
no,
I'm thinking from a disability perspective, like even ableist attitudes that are, and I think for me in the literature, like culture responsive and sustaining, I see a big tie to race, but I look at it beyond race because it's really just about the cultures that our children, our students come from.
community cultures? I like
Okay.
in communities.
Okay, so I think so when we're disaggregating and analyzing student data, that's where we're addressing race, right? I want to make sure we're addressing race somewhere, right?
Yeah, race and disability, number 4, yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't want to be race evasive in this area, you know?
no. I did. Oh, I see where you were coming from now. I was very confused to begin with. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the race piece is
Yeah.
dealt with later, and this is deliberately talking about all the cultures of your students. So if
Uh-huh.
you're like, we have a school district that has a lot of white working class near San Francisco Airport. You need
Right.
to take that into account, right?
Right.
White is a
Right.
race, but most
Yes.
cultures are based around racial differences, or lots of
Right.
cultures are. But
Right.
I think that's why we wanted it to be really encompassing everything. So that it's to
Right.
do with the students and the communities that you're teaching in, which may
Yeah.
well be multiracial
Correct.
or singular race in some communities.
Hmm. And I think if I were to make any suggestion, I would love to have the word literacy somewhere in this space because and I to demonstrate some type of and I think well, like for instance like well let me see if it's here in the way that I'm understanding it. It's like they're incorporating. I just wanted them to demonstrate, let's see, demonstrate, design, deliver these opportunities. I think they're demonstrating, let's see, oh gosh. Can you scroll up a tiny bit to see this necessary based on the inequities that exist in our current system?
The necessary bit. You want
Yeah, but I'm sorry, scroll down. Yeah, please. Okay. I want them to be able to address, that they have they're like I want them to be able to demonstrate cultural and kind of racial literacy, that the candidates have in terms of being able to understand and um, move in the space of their classrooms. And I guess it's here. It's here. Okay. I'm
And
okay.
okay, I was just thinking literacy, do you mean like language, like the language that's being used, or literacy as in textbooks that are being used, or both?
I mean, literacy in terms of like racial literacy, in
yeah,
terms
I
of like,
understand.
yeah, yeah,
So I think maybe
You have to have that.
as we're talking,
Yeah, you'd have to have that.
Sorry.
but
I want candidates to be able to do is to identify
yeah,
the sort of identities and cultural features and community features of the whole child, right?
exactly.
So think of a
Exactly.
child in a holistic manner and do that for all of their kids. So
Yep.
there's sort of an identification piece, which currently does happen to some degree in the context for learning part of the TPA. So that like let's identify who's in your room and all of
Exactly.
the features of these folks, right? So there's that. And then I want candidates to choose pedagogical practices that are in response to that knowledge. So there's something about the connection between who's in the space and what we know and what they're choosing. And I think it gets at that here. but I think that's the thing that feels that I would like to see. And it might be like there might be teachers who teach in a more racially homogenous space, for example. There might be teachers, so I don't know what the sort of varying community features might look
Right.
like or the makeup of the classrooms. But I think there's what I would want to see is students being able to identify and then being able to select pedagogical practices that align with the knowledge that they have.
But
Yeah.
do you want to change the wording? I mean, I think we need to move on to another one soon, but
Mhm.
and I think that the bullets are about as good as we can get.
I
But
think
the
so
bit that
too.
you're talking about is underneath, Shana, isn't it? Is why we want to do this. Because you're right, it's not just about because of the inequities in the system that we have.
Right.
10 more minutes.
Several minutes.
We're only
Right. I think I think we're both
that's
yeah, I'm trying to chip away at the same thing. I'm suggesting a level of skillfulness with that, right? Right. By the term literacy, like a level of skillfulness with being able to do that, you know. I guess
And I
explicitly address. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Are you guys okay with that right there?
You're saying we just need to eventually workshop the bottom.
I think so. Do we ever look at the second one?
yes.
And in there for a reason. Do we have that in there? Recommendations as necessary because evidence shows that candidates from underrepresented groups face systemic barriers.
This one is still focus area 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is recommendation 2, though.
This is the second recommendation from the equity and accountability group.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have it with an and? Can you remember?
We couldn't even finish the sentence. We were wordsmithing and we decided to stop for the
Okay.
moment.
You talking about the top part?
No.
The middle of the
In the parentheses. They're down there. Barriers and
Barriers.
Oh, yeah. I think we had a list of things.
Institutional. Is it systemic and institutional the same? Interpreted as the same. Systems and institutions.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, do we need the and? I think it sounds okay with that.
Oh, the and was
Yeah.
supposed to be the place where we say that the test specifically contributes to it. And we were trying to find a way to phrase that. So it wasn't just systemic, that it had to do with the test itself.
all right.
And we were just taking
yeah.
a moment to just pause before we wordsmithed how to do that. And I'm just going to like
Good
play
memory.
with. Yeah. And so we wanted to just keep moving, but then and that's what the note is at the bottom. Add TPA provider responsibility.
Yeah, because it was making it seem that the
That it was
disproportionality is,
right.
because of just the system, and that's what we're dealing with. But
Right.
how the TPA might be an actor in that as well.
And the test and the TPA process or requirements structure, something like that.
Something like this recommendation is necessary because evidence shows that candidates from underrepresented groups face barriers and systemic equities, including aspects of the TPA itself that
Yes.
contribute to lower success rates,
Yep,
which the
yep.
TPA providers have a responsibility to address.
Where it should be as well. But we put that in the reason. That's in the bit further down.
Is it?
I don't know.
I was just trying to write down what you said, so I don't
Oh,
know.
I said face
It's
barriers and
exactly.
systemic inequities, including aspects of the TPA itself. That contribute to lower success rates, which TPA providers have a responsibility to address, and which perpetuate inequities in the teaching profession. I know that's a terrible sentence, but it's getting closer, maybe. Help.
Putting it all in there.
Yeah.
Piece as well.
Mhm.
I'm having a reaction to the first sentence, the first part of the first sentence, and wondering about the phrase like holding preparation programs accountable by the providers publishing findings. And so I'm wondering if we're really holding the system accountable and not the program accountable, if that makes sense. It sounds like there's like various things that are happening within the system that is contributing to the inequities. So I'm wondering if we can, unless you see that like we're really actually trying to focus on the programs, but sharing the accountability amongst all the parts of the system. Right now it reads like programs are accountable.
It was based on two recommendations. One said implement a system of preparation program accountability for disproportionate success rates. And then the other one was TPA providers research disproportionality, publish findings, and support preparation programs in addressing these inequities.
Yeah.
So that's how it, because one of the recommendations focused on prep programs being accountable and the other one TPA providers. And so it's supposed to say the way we hold them accountable is by the TPA supporting in these ways.
Yes, because that doesn't make, we've missed something out there, I think,
Help.
because we're saying the preparation programs need to be accountable for those results, and that's but by requiring TPA providers to research and publish the findings, that's the support piece, isn't it?
I was thinking recommends maybe sharing responsibility, something with prep programs and TPA providers. Accountable for addressing disproportionate DPA success. I don't know. What do you think? Should Shayna share? I like what you said about shared responsibility. I just don't know how that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure the wording here, but something maybe like shared accountability.
Shared accountability.
I don't know if that's a good term, but it's what I have in my head. And it's also I'm also trying to be mindful of the differences in programmatic types and communities and areas folks serve. And
what about if we just take it? I don't like the word holding either now, but that preparation programs and TPA providers are accountable, recommends are accountable, and TPA providers are accountable for addressing
That's right.
TPA rates.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Like we are all accountable and should all be addressing and be responsive to the data that we have. But not, I think no, there's no sole accountability. I don't believe, but there.
Better or?
Success rates. And then it should be a new sentence, full stop. TPA providers are to research and publish findings on inequities, particularly race and ethnicity, in order to redesign the assessment and support programs in reducing these disparities.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Are required.
Mhm.
Yeah, that looks good.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the support programs is where the shared accountability
I think
piece
so.
comes from. Do you want to put TPA providers first, then preparation programs for the shared accountability?
I don't think it matters.
Is there-
I'm okay with it either way. I prefer it TPA providers at the end, because then it goes on to say what they need to do. We want to look at the next one before we run out of time. Have we got another one?
5 more minutes.
Do we want the providers to just support by providing the data, or do they need to collaborate and work together,
That's a good question, yeah.
the programs?
From the presentations, it sounds like they're supposed to collaborate. I just don't know the reality or how often the collaboration occurs. And again, I think we talked about just different programs. Some might collaborate more than others for whatever reasons.
It might be interesting. I always caution against. I'm not sure how much we should tell people what to do or how to do it versus like, this is what we need to do. But I think one potential thing could be the providers could provide recommendations to programs. Like maybe a program isn't as familiar, or they're just starting out, I don't know, with whatever assessment. But it seems like if I'm a provider, I should have some knowledge of what a program could do to increase access to my assessment. So I think they could provide recommendations to programs and offer a space of collaboration. Sort of to your point, Jason, about
Yeah, including
collaboration.
but not limited to
Mhm.
advising program, supporting.
Mhm. Yeah, like supporting, advising, consulting, something.
To programs. Do we need to say to programs?
They will give us feedback and we will have another opportunity to revise.
No, we're not doing
Gonna run
feedback.
out of
That's a
space.
different group. All right, let's
The
have a quick.
commission will give us feedback and
Yeah, right. Let's have a look at the last one then.
there's 2 more.
There's 2 more?
Okay,
Damn.
one more.
See, I told you should have been facilitator.
Well, I think this is like it's definitely. Hi.
Guys, do you need more time?
Yeah.
What are the other groups?
Yeah.
What do they say?
There, we've got 2 back.
Out of 4,
You need a little bit more time?
Yeah, could we,
How
like,
much?
10 more minutes?
10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Okay,
thank you.
5 and 5.
Okay, 5.
The timekeeper.
Let's have a
I
look.
am. I'm a bad timekeeper.
Yeah, I blame you. Yeah. I've been trying to facilitate, but
But you can't because
it's hard.
time's off. Time's
Maybe
off.
these will be easier,
Okay, these will be easier.
maybe.
We training assessors to prioritize value candidate knowledge what they can do.
You should probably say training and retraining. And there would be new ones, wouldn't there? For some people, it's not retraining.
Well, I think the whole idea was, from what I understand, they do train them. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they
they
do
do.
train them, but if they're trained, then why do we still have these issues? Distant training? I don't know, like.
Just assessor training.
Just
Assessor training to prioritize.
excessive.
It recommends assessor training to prioritize. This is, maybe it's the providers, the TPA providers have to do this, don't they?
Assessor practices and scoring.
This is some of the things that they kept talking about. Is that, the negative, problematic errors.
I have to say, I'm not entirely convinced this is an issue, but I know it has come up a lot in our conversations.
Well, and I think this it's the packet we got of public comments kind of shows like the disparities in assessing how I think a few of us were talking, or someone I was hearing someone mention like they can have the same assessment, turn it in twice and get two different scores. So there's definitely there's something going on. We don't know what it is. But there's an issue.
Breakout rooms will close in 60 seconds.
All right, look at the next one.
That was intended.
No, yeah, I don't think it's he gave us 10 minutes, so.
I don't know if we're supposed to have.
I can't read it, yeah.
Can you go to your Zoom and X out the box? On his screen, I don't see it, so it must be in the.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
in charge of that.
Oh, is it on that one over there?
Let's see if it closes and then if it does, we'll have to reopen it anyway.
7, 6, we're on countdown. Blast off, blast
It
off.
needs to.
Shayna, there we go. I think we're on mute. We were on mute.
We were on mute.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
No breakout room.
breakout rooms are closing.
They're
Is that
closing.
another notification?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Didn't even intend for the first one to. Whatever it's.
And all we really did on this last one, it was a standalone recommendation about having a reflection question about candidate support.
Yep.
And at the end, it says intended to address alignment issues by using candidate feedback as a means of accountability for preparation practices. And we felt that it didn't include the TPA. So are we saying feedback for improving the TPA or?
Okay, I think we're just gonna go to the main room.
Okay. Maybe we should go back then.
Okay, I see the other break. Oh, we need to meet the other team that just started leaving right now.
Yeah, they're just
See them
leaving.
there?
Okay, we should
We
go.
want to be the last ones.
Yeah. I don't mind being last. Yeah.